Okay, let's just dive right into this because we have a lot to cover. Imagine the smell of ozone and burning metal just hanging incredibly thick in the air. The iconic wrought iron X gates, they're completely melted, twisted into the rubble. Dust is just slowly settling over the utter devastation of the mutant sanctuary, the X Mansion. We are dropping right into a massive, dark cinematic mystery today, and we're going to strip back the layers of what really promises to be one of the most monumental cinematic events we've ever analyzed. I am going to break down every single hidden detail, every character motivation, and every catastrophic implication of this narrative. It's going to be a wild ride. So what is Doctor Doom's true plan for the Avengers? Well, to uncover that, we need to look at 6 key pieces of this massive puzzle. We'll be going through the X-Mansion attack, the ensuing clash of heroes, the Fantastic Four's arrival, Doom's magical supremacy, his devastating multiversal tragedy, and finally, the chaotic magic that's driving this whole thing. Let's start right off with part 1, the X-Mansion Sentinel attack. Okay, so we find ourselves right in the middle of the absolute destruction of the mutant sanctuary. Thor, the god of thunder, is just standing there alone in the dirt, gripping Stormbreaker. But he is completely surrounded by the massive fallen bodies of giant sentinels. Now, the sheer unimaginable scale of this destruction is our very first clue to the overwhelming power dynamics at play here. Because Doctor Doom doesn't just rely on brute force, right? He orchestrates pure chaos. He masterfully uses his own magic to physically reanimate and activate these massive downed sentinels right outside the mansion. And you have to ask, why? Well, because it acts as the perfect, overwhelming distraction. He literally forces this incredible assembly of heroes, I'm talking Cyclops, Beast, Nightcrawler, Sam Wilson, the whole squad, to desperately scramble against this sudden colossal threat. I mean, even for a god-tier villain, an assembled team of Avengers and X-Men is incredibly dangerous, so this brilliant tactical maneuver allows him to just slip away entirely unnoticed. Which brings us right into part 2, Heroes Clash and Unite. Now, before these heroes can actually unite, we have to navigate this incredibly tense period of visceral, friendly fire chaos. The X-Men are, understandably on edge. Their home was just destroyed, so they mistakenly identify the heroes from Earth 616 as multiversal threats. It's a total misunderstanding. We see Shang-Chi, the absolute master of martial arts, locking horns with Gambit in this visually stunning clash. Shang-Chi's glowing mystical rings are deflecting Gambit's explosive, kinetically charged playing cards. It turns the entire battlefield into this lethal high-stakes light show, and simultaneously we have the teleporting Nightcrawler going head-to-head with the stretching genius of Reed Richards. It is just a dizzying sequence. You've got Nightcrawler bamfing in and out of reality in these thick clouds of purple smoke, desperately trying to bypass Mr. Fantastic's impossibly contorting limbs. It just goes to show how confusion breeds devastating conflict long before unity can ever actually be achieved. And right in the thick of all this chaos, Mystique squares off against Yelena Belova. This is a highly tense, deeply psychological duel. At one point, Mystique manages to grab hold of Yelena's metal baton mid-strike. But here's the kicker. Rather than just trying to overpower her physically, Mystique uses her shapeshifter's advantage. She transforms seamlessly into a second Yelena, so suddenly Yelena is forced into this terrifying psychological mirror match against her own reflection. I mean, just imagine the horror of fighting someone who not only knows your exact combat style, but is wearing your exact face, literally turning your own lethal Red Room training against you. It is chilling. So once the dust finally settles on this friendly fire, and this incredible roster realizes who the true enemy actually is, it begs the ultimate question. How does a single villain survive a united army of this magnitude? Think about it. We are talking about Thor calling down raw lightning, Cyclops unleashing devastating optic blasts, Captain America coordinating these perfect tactical strikes, all of them aiming their absolute fury at one single man. It genuinely seems impossible for anyone to withstand that combined barrage, right? Well, to understand this, we have to look at a truly godlike display of power. This next moment brilliantly illustrates the terrifying reality of Doctor Doom's physical strength. We see it directly from Thor's point of view. He swings Stormbreaker, and remember, this is a divine weapon forged from Uru, a weapon that literally took the absolute brunt of the fully powered Infinity Gauntlet and decapitated Thanos. Thor swings it with all of his godly might directly at Doom, and Doom, he just simply catches it. No struggle, no strain. He effortlessly halts the momentum of the cosmic axe using nothing but his bare fingers. The absolute terrifying silence of this moment is deafening. It is almost like a dark, twisted joke played on the God of Thunder, proving that Doom's legendary ego isn't just empty arrogance, it is backed by completely incomprehensible power. And honestly, this singular shocking moment establishes exactly why Doom required that Sentinel distraction earlier, because even with this immense
axe-stopping power, the sheer volume of an assembled army of heroes could, eventually, overwhelm him.
Alright, moving on to part 3, the Fantastic Four arrival. So, pulling away from the dirt, the rubble, and the sheer chaos of the X-Mansion, we look upward, deep into the cosmos. And we find ourselves aboard this magnificent ship called the Excelsior. This cosmic vessel is the literal bridge connecting the Fantastic Four's reality to Earth 616. And guys, the sheer scale of this ship is absolutely breathtaking. It completely dwarfs anything we've ever seen built on Earth. Its glowing engines pulse brightly against the dark, empty void, while its really sleek, retro-futuristic architecture provides this stark, beautiful contrast to the grounded, utilitarian tech we usually see on Earth 616. With the entirety of Earth looming majestically in the background, it is just a moment of pure cinematic awe. Out on the deck of this ship, a sweeping visual delivers this profoundly heroic reunion. We see Steve Rogers standing tall, side by side with Thor. But what makes this image so incredibly iconic, so chill-inducing, is that Steve Rogers is once again holding Mjolnir. It is a triumphant, deeply emotional anchor amidst all the multiversal chaos unfolding below them. It immediately brings back the heavy, triumphant weight of their final stand in Endgame, and it reminds us exactly why the specific image gives our scattered, battered heroes a desperately needed beacon of pure hope. So the really crucial point here is figuring out how these cosmic travelers integrate into our known world safely, because the heroes of Earth 616 are understandably paranoid right now. I mean, they have endured the secret invasion, the constantly looming threat of Kong, and this non-stop multiversal bleeding. Trust is basically non-existent. So my theory here is that Thor acts as the absolute essential first point of contact for the Fantastic Four. Because Thor is present with them on the Excelsior, he essentially serves as the crucial bridge. He is the one formally introducing Marvel's first family to the new Avengers, and he's vouching for them. If you think about it, without Thor there to validate their presence, the Fantastic Four would almost certainly be attacked the very second they made landfall, exactly like that chaotic skirmish we just saw at the X-Mansion. Now let's transition into part 4, Dr. Doom's magical supremacy. Deep inside the eerie halls of Castle Doom, the antagonist is sitting upon his throne, and he is just this imposing figure of absolute authority. The room itself is incredibly eerie and cold. It's completely dominated by this massive glowing green glass backdrop that just bathes the entire metallic chamber in a really unsettling, sickly light. And cascading all across the floor are these intricate magical green constructs mapped out by Doom himself. It is such a fantastic nod to Doom's rich history because it proves that yes, while he is absolutely one of the smartest scientific minds in existence, it's his heavy reliance on sorcery that makes him truly peerless. He bridges that impossible gap between high-level technology and the mystic arts perfectly. Let's actually break down the sheer terrifying versatility of Doom's magical supremacy. We can look at this in 3 steps. First, he casts incredibly complex mystical shields and energy blasts that easily rival the Sorcerer Supreme. Second, his deep mastery allows him to summon terrifying demonic entities straight from other realms to do his bidding. But third, and honestly most importantly for this narrative, his magic grants him the ability to physically travel across different dimensions. And I am entirely convinced that it is through this exact specific multiversal travel that Doom first discovered the devastating reality of the incursions. He witnessed firsthand the absolute destruction that is threatening all of existence. Which leads us to a much darker chapter. Part 5, the multiversal family tragedy. In a very quiet, haunting corner of his castle, Doom just stands silently beside a painting. But this isn't just some piece of art. It is a portrait of his wife and his child. They are casualties of a multiversal incursion that completely destroyed his reality. Just take a second and really think about what an incursion actually looks and feels like. We're talking about skies burning, the very fabric of gravity completely breaking down as 2 entire Earths violently collide, literally erasing trillions of lives in a single instant. Living through that immense, unimaginable trauma, and losing the people he loved most to that kind of cosmic collapse, that transforms Doom. He goes from being a simple, power-hungry megalomaniac into a deeply grieving, broken survivor. It brings to mind this powerful thought. To build a new world, he must first avenge the one he lost. You see, his insurmountable grief is the true engine driving his every move. His ultimate goal isn't just to conquer and rule. It is to forge a brand new reality,
A Battleworld. And Battleworld is essentially a patchwork graveyard. It's a planet literally stitched together from the surviving remnants of dead and dying universes. He wants to resurrect his family and be reunited with them at absolutely any cost, using the shattered fragments of a broken multiverse just to rebuild his home.
This brings us to our climax. Part 6, Chaos, Magic, and Battleworld. So, we know exactly what Doom wants. And we know he certainly has the power to fight the Avengers. But how exactly does he plan to execute this mathematically impossible resurrection? Well, Doom isn't acting alone. He commands this group of masked followers. But more specifically, he forms a really dark alliance with a disciple who appears to be a variant of Doctor Strange. This masked variant utilizes a sling ring to rip open a multiversal gateway right in front of Doom. Stop and think about the implications of that for just a moment. If Doom has the sheer magical authority to subjugate a Sorcerer Supreme and turn him into a loyal henchman, it proves that his power scaling is entirely off the charts. We're in uncharted territory.
But it is what lies beyond that gateway that demands our absolute, undivided attention. Because peering through the portal, there is this mysterious, floating object pulsating with a violent, deeply menacing red light. The visual contrast here is just super unsettling. Doom's traditional magic is always this cold, calculated green, right? But this artifact radiates an erratic, furious red energy that feels completely alien and unhinged. So what exactly is this object hovering out there in the void? Well, I am directly connecting this glowing red aesthetic to one specific, absolutely terrifying force in the Marvel Universe: chaos magic. This is the impossibly rare, reality-altering power capable of rewriting existence itself. It draws a chilling, undeniable parallel to the reality-warping hex we saw entirely consume Westview. You see, standard magic, even at Dr. Doom's incredibly godlike level, can only ever manipulate existing reality. It can bend the rules but not break them. But chaos magic? Chaos magic can create something out of absolutely nothing. And that is exactly the type of raw, unfiltered power Doom requires if he's actually going to physically manifest Battleworld out of thin air.
And this leads me to a really dark, horrifying implication that I'm calling the Scarlet Sacrifice. I believe Dr. Doom has actively hunted down and captured Wanda Maximoff. This perfectly mirrors the incredibly dark comic lore from the Children's Crusade, where Doom tapped directly into Wanda's life force. I heavily theorize that Doom is actively consuming or siphoning her powers right now. He is using the Scarlet Witch as a living battery, slowly draining her dry to generate the massive influx of chaos magic required to build his entirely new reality from the ashes of the old ones.
So I leave you with this final thought. If Dr. Doom successfully harnesses chaos magic, if he truly commands reality itself, who can possibly stop him from completely rewriting the entire Marvel Universe? We are looking at literal world-ending stakes, where the very fabric of existence is held in the iron grip of a grieving, omnipotent god. The Avengers, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, they are all marching towards a man who wields the literal power of creation and destruction. The board is set, the pieces are actively moving, and let me tell you, the multiverse will never be the same.